We want to get Nigel doing as much as possible on the engine build.
It's a different planet.
I don't know how much work you were expecting, but there is quite a lot.
I've never seen anything like it.
My opinion, it's scrap, really.
Split-screen campervan club president Nigel Eisted has given himself just 5 months to restore his 1965 Devon camper, Dipsy.
Battered, beat up, leaking oil.
He's determined to end over 12 years of embarrassment from a bus that runs as bad as she looks.
13 brake horsepower at the wheels.
He plans to replace his old lump with a turbocharged, fuel-injected engine.
It will scare the life out of me.
Before that, he needs to get the rest sorted. So Dipsy's been stripped and sent off to be chemically dipped, but after the first stage, it isn't looking good. Nigel can't predict how much welding will be needed on the van. Bad news at this stage could drastically affect the schedule and budget. It's a worrying time for him and his partner, Nikki.
Literally, all I can do is sit and wait until she comes out.
Now we've started spending the money, we've got to keep spending the money. It cannot fail, it's got to work, the project's got to work.
To ensure every last scrap of organic matter is removed from the van, it's dipped 4 or 5 times in varying strengths of acids and alkalines. Finally, a high-pressure wash removes the chemicals and the full extent of the restoration work is revealed.
Hello.
You all right? How's it going? Good,
How you doing?
Yeah, good.
Hello.
Good. This is Tam.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Tam's one of the many sort of volunteers on the project.
Nigel's restored van will need to be pretty solid, as ultimately he'll be fitting an engine with a lot more power. Today, he's finally had some good news, as the specialist parts for the engine have arrived at the engine builders.
So, Nigel, here we go. 5 boxes with your kit in and your engine case. And here we have 90% of what we need there to complete the build, and we'll crack on, get them all checked and cleaned today and start the assembly.
Fantastic. What sort of amount of cleaning have we got to do?
Right, what we'll do first is we'll get all the stuff laid out on the bench, we'll get it all out of the blister packs. All this stuff will come with kind of shipping greases and varnishes and oils on, and what we don't want to happen is for that to get into the final build. Also, when we're measuring stuff up to make sure it's right to go into the engine, if you measure it without removing these transit materials, you end up measuring the wrong sizes. It seems almost obsessive, but having a really clean, almost clinically clean kit will make a difference to how long the engine lasts, how well it runs, how much power it makes.
Fantastic.
In layman's terms, it's a VW-based 1.9-litre air-cooled engine with a turbo and electronic fuel injection.
You're not going to know what's hit you.
No,
No, absolutely.
Small box, but very expensive. This is your ECU, so this is the brains behind the fuel injection. It's what makes it work.
Myself and Tam have built up a few engines in our time. Just the procedures they're talking about going through and just all the fuel injection kit that's going on the top, it's all just... It's a different planet.
Housed in a genuine VW case, most of the engine is built up from aftermarket performance parts shipped in from the States. With all the worry over the state of the shell, this provides a welcome distraction for Nigel.
Look how excited he is. He's like a kid in a toy shop. He's just... If Nick would let him have one of these in the garage, he'd have it tomorrow. I mean, we'd put a timing gear on. You know, you've got to heat it to get it on your crankshaft, so that's what I did. I had it in my oven in the kitchen at home, I had the crankshaft on the kitchen floor and putting the thing on with an oven glove. I just don't think that's going to happen this time.
For maximum performance, each individual engine component will need to be almost surgically cleaned.
Building an engine at home, even when it's fairly clean, is not the same as when you're building an engine in a good environment. Every part will be clean, checked and measured, and if there's anything that's slightly wrong, you just won't use it.
With all the rust removed, next up for Dipsy is a coat of primer which will ensure most of the rust doesn't return. Nigel's mate Richard has come to collect her and will be the first person to assess the damage.
Blimey, there's a few holes here. The top lip and the gutter there is just all completely gone. I mean, it's had a small repair already, but that's terrible. Blimey, they've filled holes here with just lots and lots of weld rather than panels made up to block all that. There's quite a lot of interesting work that's going to have to go on in here.
Richard's restored a few VWs in his time, so he knows Nigel's got a lot of work ahead of him.
Pretty much every panel on this bus will need some sort of work doing to it to restore old and bad repairs.
Nigel was hoping that most of the welding work would be cosmetic. But it's starting to look like Dipsy needs major reconstructive surgery.
You all right, Nigel, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How's it going at your end?
At the moment they're just spraying it with the X-Primer. We've had a good look over it. I don't know how much work you were expecting, but there is quite a lot. As long as you look at it from the top, it looks fine.
Nigel has a long way to go if he's ever going to get Dipsy to show standard. VWs have more dedicated summer events than any other make, and the level of competition grows stronger every year.
A lot of work. People try and rattle buses out really quick, but once you start looking for parts, it can take years.
Tom's 1964 21 window Deluxe took 4 years to restore.
It was completely wrecked when I bought it. The day I finished, I rolled up to this show, entered the concourse, got second because I never had no number plates. So.
But it's not all about winning silverware. Most go for a weekend jolly, and winning a prize is just a bonus.
We won a cup yesterday, unexpected.
Anne and Dave's 58 split picked up 3rd place in the club's Van of the Year category.
Everything is of the era, really. Yeah. The interior, the bench seat, and gaslight even. I like anything old.
He goes to Kettering with Brian Emmett.
Each event holds a show and shine competition. In most cases, the judges reward detail and authenticity, and throwing 30 grand at a bus won't guarantee top honours.
It had sat languishing in the previous owner's garden for about 8 years and used as a summer house. The outside had deteriorated quite badly, but the inside was perfectly intact.
Brian's 63 Devon split grabbed Best in Show. It's now valued at around £20,000.
We still take her out, we use her, we camp in her. Entering things, really, that's a secondary thing, really, to be honest. It's just nice to let people see her.
Use it, enjoy it. It only comes out in the sunshine.
It'll last another 50 years.
Yeah, it will if we do.
Yeah.
Richard has left Dipsy at a convenient location, so for Nigel, the moment of truth has arrived.
Nice.
Will a closer inspection dampen his enthusiasm?
It's a slight shock, but it could have been worse. You can really see what all those little bits are now. It really is a lot of work.
So Nigel remains optimistic, but despite knowing a lot about vans, he's no restorer. It's only when he gets an expert opinion that he'll know what he's really dealing with.
Bizarrely, on the same day that I get this back, this arrived all the way from Ho Chi Minh City. Once that goes on again, that means the van's finished.
Being club president, Nigel knows a couple of places where he can get the work done. His first stop is a short trip to a professional VW restorer who he hopes will give him the nod.
If they say that they can't do it, I'm not quite sure what we do from there. And I know they can do the work. It's whether they can fit it into their schedule and fit it in time.
It's all cosmetic.
It doesn't take long before Nigel's bubble is burst.
Jeez.
Everything that you see out there, I would throw away and start again.
I've never seen anything like it.
To be honest, it's pretty much the same sort of reaction that you get from most people when they first see it.
I could do with a cup of coffee.
Just a cup of coffee? Well, I might have a chaser.
I'm not a restorer. I don't know exactly, you know, I can see where stuff isn't right, but I don't actually know how long something's going to take to put right. You know, it's just going to need bits and pieces, if anything. Literally, underneath, chassis-wise, it's going to need really next to nothing.
Unfortunately, it looks like Paul's not so optimistic.
It needs a serious amount of work, and probably too much for us to take on at the moment.
This is a setback, but Nigel knows another restoration company across town who he hopes will not be so negative about his pride and joy.
It's probably the worst shell we've had to look at to consider restoring.
OK, so that's not quite what he wanted to hear, and Dipsy seems to be attracting attention for all the wrong reasons.
Inner frames are gone, the strengthening ribs are gone, battery trays, side trays, the air vent is gone. They just get badly repaired over years of ownership, and then at a point where you decide to restore it, it becomes an epic job.
That's outrageous, isn't it?
The job can be done, but working to Nigel's timescale would up the budget by thousands.
You'd never do this in a short space of time.
I'm a little bit sort of running out of options.
We are in the middle of another restoration. That one we thought was the worst van we'd ever seen, but this one's now beating it.
Another rejection for Nigel could mean the end of the project.
The welding being the bit that no one really gets to see, and because we do a complete service here, we're reluctant to take that on.
Okay. Understandably, when a business is doing it, they don't want their work to be shown as anything other than the absolute best that they can do. Predominantly the time frame is really against us. The reality is now that I don't actually know what I'm going to do.
In part 2, Nigel starts to work on his engine. But will there be anything left of Dipsy to put it in?
I've never seen one as bad as this. Absolutely lethal.
With Dipsy stripped and dipped, it's only now that the true scale of the restoration can be seen.
Pretty much every panel on this bus will need some sort of work.
Nigel has been busy sorting his engine, but he can't find anyone prepared to take on the welding.
I've never seen anything like it. Probably too much for us to take on at the moment.
That's outrageous, isn't it?
I'm a little bit sort of running out of options.
After a series of humiliating knockbacks, Nigel has decided to focus on finding a welder rather than a specialist camper van restorer. He's heard of a bloke with a good reputation for doing up classic motors. And with time running out, the entire project hangs in the balance.
I sort of tried to keep away from them, to be honest with you, because the amount of work on them. And they've got that much water traps in them. Mud sits underneath, rots them out all the time. Unless you lock them up in the garage and never use them, only in the summer.
Charlie. Nigel, you're right.
Yeah,
how's it going?
Sam, this is the one there.
This is it.
Nigel has struggled because the restorers he's seen are keen to promote their businesses by producing show-winning vans. He just wants Dipsy to be made roadworthy and do the rest of the work himself.
So not looking for a concours finish on it,
no,
but just basically so it's a usable vehicle.
It's really bad, that one, because all the floor panels are gone, the inside panels, all the window panels are gone, the front screen panels gone, and the side panels are gone. So what the doors are like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're gone.
You fancy taking it on then?
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Roughly, what sort of time scale would you envisage with this sort of?
You're talking about 3 weeks' work.
Is that all?
Well, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It won't take long.
Sold.
Nigel can't believe his luck.
Yeah, I could have done with this about 3 weeks ago, to be honest. I've had some sleepless nights, lying there at 4 o'clock in the morning, wondering if I actually want to carry on or not, you know, that sort of thing. From last week's potential absolute disaster, if the guy pulls out the bag what we think he's going to pull out, It could just be the lucky break we've been looking for.
So with the bus in Charlie's capable hands, Nigel can now crack on with the engine. Accurate measurements produce more power, and Nigel's first job was to ensure all the individual components were surgically clean. It's only when you see all the muddy deposits left in the cleaning solution that you realise how vital this process is.
So all that would have been...
All that would have ended up in your oil.
Running in the engine.
And in fact, you can see the little bits of filings from the machining as well. So when you saw all the stuff, it looked clean, but it wasn't clean.
Nigel has sourced a turbocharger from the internet. The lads then designed an engine recipe around it. Now, with all the parts cleaned, it's time for a mock assembly.
This is critical, is what we're doing is making sure that all the components that make up your recipe come together and fit together correctly. Making sure everything that we've bought is what it says on the packet. Sometimes it comes in the wrong container, and you check and measure twice, fit once, and that way we know it's going to be a good, robust engine.
The engine has to be partially assembled to allow various measurements to be taken and check the clearances. Next, the boys move on to the crankshaft assembly.
Just actually get your hand all the way around and make sure there's a good coat of oil around the entire journal.
These aftermarket components are far more durable than the originals. Nigel isn't looking to compete with the fastest buses on the strip. He wants a combination of performance and reliability that will keep him and his family on the road for another 40 years.
One of the very, very few original VW parts that will end up back in the engine is the flywheel. All these other parts, they're all aftermarket parts, albeit to exactly the same design. So the basic philosophy and design of the engine is exactly the same. Speed's not the main thing for daily use. Obviously it'll be very nice, but just the reliability over what I've been used to, which is a vehicle that you just weren't quite sure if you were always going to make it to where you were going, especially if you're going on a long journey. So it'd be nice just to be able to get in it, blast up and down the country, wherever I want to go, and not have to worry about it.
It's certainly not about laboratory conditions back at the farm. It's about getting your hands dirty, and Charlie isn't hanging about. But the deeper he gets into the van, the more amazed he is that it was even on the road in the first place.
That one should just pull off, and that's supposed to be welded. So it's lethal, absolutely lethal. I've never seen one as bad as this. My opinion, it's scrap really, but we'll just have to try rebuild it bit by bit.
With the welding and bodywork now out of his hands, Nigel's just happy to be getting stuck into some work.
We want to get Nigel doing as much as possible on the engine build.
Under their expert supervision, of course.
So he's going to be stripping things down, checking things as much as possible, and we'll double check after him and then quality check everything he does.
So, there we go, Nigel. One side mocked up, and next we need to take it all apart and clean it again before the next trial assembly.
Ultimately, Nigel hopes the extra horsepower will gain him entry into an elite group of VW enthusiasts called the BWA, or Buses with Attitude.
Basically, it's a club for people who have spent an absolute fortune getting the most ridiculous vehicle to run a fast race on a drag strip.
Their aim is to get a 1.5 ton lump down the drag strip in less than 18 seconds.
There's no way you're going to get a standard bus to run a sub-18, but with modification you can.
A standard bus with a 1.5 or 1.6 litre engine will cover the quarter mile in around 26 seconds. But some of the top BWA boys are doing the sprint in under 14.
You've got to have at least 200 brake horsepower to do that, and get it right on the day.
This sort of power doesn't come cheap. A performance engine can cost anywhere between 5 and 10 grand. Ricky's bus is a 1954 barn door Samba. Despite its rarity, he spent the money on the thrills rather than the frills and fitted a 2.6 Type 4 engine and a 5-speed Porsche gearbox, as well as all the top brakes and running gear.
Basically, I wanted it to be able to put it into fifth gear and drive on the motorway at 70 miles an hour without revving it to pieces. I brought it here today to race, to try and do a sub-18, which it normally does. It usually runs low 16s. I fluffed a couple of gears on the way up the strip and I only ran an 18.2.
Today, Ricky's time wouldn't have got him into his own club, but just give him a set of lights and a boy racer and he'll be smiling all the way home.
They hate being annihilated by a crappy old bus, and it's such a buzz. Every time I get in the thing, it's just loads of fun, loads of fun.
Back at the farm, it's bad news for Nigel. Despite Charlie's best efforts, it's starting to look like the welding could take twice as long as originally estimated.
Yeah, this is the worst one I've ever done. It's just all out of shape. So all we had to do is cut it all off and start again, really. I've got another one I'm working on, and the bodywork ain't bad on it. It's 10 times better than the one we're doing now, so.
The amount of welding needed could blow Nigel's time schedule, and there's another problem that's out of both his and Charlie's hands.
How's it going? Yeah, good, and you?
The replacement floor has arrived, but Charlie is still waiting for the long and short panels, which are being fabricated from scratch. This is holding everything up.
They're on their way. They're having a few very minor problems getting them exactly right. Before we came here, I was really, really worried about the welding.
Yeah.
It was obviously it's the biggest single job on the van, and it was a big job. It's a big job on any van, but on mine, I knew it was a very big job.
Well, yours a pile of junk, to be quite honest with you, but.
Have you done many as bad or worse?
No, not as bad as that, no.
No?
You cut sections out, put sections in, but yours is just sections got to be cut out all over the body.
With so much cutting, welding and replacing,
never better recycled.
Will Nigel still be able to call Dipsy an original bus, or will the best part of her be left in a rusty heap outside Charlie's shed?
To do a van of this age, unless you've got an enormous timescale and an enormous budget to find new old stock parts, you have to make compromises. It's as long as I've got a van that looks right and it's solid and straight and usable, that's personally what I want to get out of it. I'm pretty happy, but I'm sure as we get a bit further through, there'll be a few more sleepless nights to come.
In the next episode, Nigel gets a special delivery and his first look at Dipsy Mark II.
Not sure I want to turn around. Oh, God! Oh, my word.